All started simply enough. I was walking to the corner store for small things, maybe a soda or a tea, a bag of chips for a snack, the kind of errand that exists purely to kill time. The day itself was entirely boring. Normal, offensively, uneventful. I had just looked up from my phone and back into the large, tireless crowd when I noticed it. The man in front of me glanced back for all of a second, and his eyes did something weird, something wrong. His pupils shifted into a diamond shape, snapped back to round, then flooded completely black. I stopped walking. The man turned forward again and kept going like nothing had happened. Like his eyeballs hadn't just violated several laws of biology and decency. People bumped into me from behind. A woman and her kid clipped my side. My stomach dropped straight into my ass, and my throat suddenly felt like someone had shoved a rock down it and forgotten about it. I got shaky. Sweat broke out down my back, the gross cold kind that clings to your shirt. I started walking backward, heart hammering, and turned around. I turned and began walking the opposite direction, trying to get back to my apartment, only to realize the same man had turned too. He was now walking beside me. Great. I picked up my pace, deciding the store and its delicious little munchies could wait. They would still exist tomorrow. I hoped I would too. My legs wobbled as I walked, like they were trying to decide if today was leg day or a medical emergency. There's no way he noticed me. Right? He didn't know. Right? I couldn't tell if I'd been found out. And my sweating, stomach flips, and general internal screaming were not helping. I wanted to cry and run all the way home, but another thought slid in, cold and logical in the worst way possible. I didn't want this man thing. Pretending to be a man to follow me to the one place I felt safe. I glanced sideways again. Yes, he was still there, still keeping pace. I started walking faster, bumping into people now, nearly breaking into what could generously be called a jog. Then the man did something horrible. He yelled, I looked back. Big mistake. Huge, rookie horror movie mistake. I don't know why I did that. Reflex, I guess. Like when you hear your name yelled in public and your body betrays you before your brain can object. Acknowledging him made everything worse. The urge to ugly cry came back and my throat felt burdened. I wanted to teleport directly into my bed and pretend humans were still the apex species. I looked around. I needed a crowd. A store. Somewhere public. I sped-walked into the nearest place available, which turned out to be a dumpling restaurant. The smell of steamed dough, oil, and soy sauce hit me immediately warm, comforting, beautifully normal. I rushed to the front where a cashier was seating a family of 4. I looked around. No man. I finally let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding, and collapsed into a waiting chair, sweating and shaking like an erupting volcano with anxiety issues. I jammed the heels of my palms into my eyes, wiping away panic tears before they could embarrass me in public. When I pulled my hands away and the blurry edges of my vision returned to normal, the man walked in through the front door. Cool. Fantastic. Love that for me. I scrambled up and bolted through the closest door, hearing a woman behind me ask if I wanted a seat. No. I wanted to live. I ran as fast as my Doc Martens would allow, rocks kicking up behind me. I felt like a bulldozer with anxiety, mowing down a line of unsuspecting worker ants. Sorry, everyone. This is a supernatural emergency, and death and life were on the line. There was no time to breathe. No time to cry. If I stopped for even one real breath, he'd be there. 1 second of oxygen. Wasn't worth that. I ran like that dog named Princess from my childhood, who liked to bite all of the kids on the block. I ran like my Uncle Fernando, who got too excited when told that the booze was on the way. I ran as fast as I could, still thinking of all of the weird little stories from my past that made me feel like I could keep going at this pace. Powered by memories that were deeply unhelpful, but emotionally motivating. Though the stories weren't enough, and neither were the memories. Uncle Fernando's drinking habit and Princess the evil dog wasn't going to be enough to make me feel like my lungs weren't playing hopscotch with my blood vessels in hell. Unfortunately, nostalgia is not a replacement for lungs. I had to stop. I had to, or I would die on the spot. Ahead of me loomed an abandoned building, decrepit, half collapsed, smelling faintly of rust and wet concrete. I couldn't linger. I just needed inside. Then I could rest for a minute. I flung myself toward the first window, definitely abandoned. I ran to the door, grabbed the knob, locked. Of course it was. What was I expecting? No way it would be that easy. I'd rate this day so far 5 stars on the crappy list of days I'd had recently. I felt a sharp cramp stab into my side because my body loves adding commentary, especially in the middle of panic. I rounded the building and was immediately blessed by the universe for once. Right there, might as well have lied an angel or a horribly handsome man. In reality, it was just a gap in a barbed wire fence. My savior. I skidded over and tried to gently pull myself through. The wire tugged at my hair and probably ripped out a few strands. I didn't care. I didn't have time to. Just then, behind me, came heavy footsteps pounding on the ground in a run somewhere in the general direction I had came from. I ran further inwards, and there was a small broken window leading into the basement of what I could only assume was a giant old factory, probably for processed meats or something. The air smelled moldy and damp, like regret. I hooked my hands on the frame and lowered myself in, dropping down with a thud. Pain shot through my ankles. I let it sizzle for half a second, forcing my legs to absorb it. Outside, the fence rattled. Nope. Time to go. I crept into the basement, scrambling over broken roofing and drywall. My legs screaming in protest. They had never taken this much of a beating before. I stopped finally to catch my breath after I found a hidey hole under the ground. I slid a slab of roofing over the opening and dropped down, covering my mouth as I sat in total darkness. Everything hurt. Everything shook. Tears streamed down my face silently. I sat down and covered my mouth in the darkness, feeling all of the panic, fear, and tears that strained on my body. I looked to the side, feeling slightly dizzy all of a sudden. Then I heard him. "You know you can't hide, right, girl?" His voice was calm, strong, wrong, like two people speaking at once. "I will find you and end this. Don't worry. I'll only wipe your mind. We don't need humans telling stories about us." My adrenaline roared so loud I was convinced he could hear it. Hell, I'm convinced the world could hear it. Though I'm pretty sure that was just me freaking out. I don't know how long I stayed there. Hours, days, time stopped mattering. I wasn't panicked anymore, just paranoid, and mostly listening, waiting. I didn't hear a single sound since the talking, which felt like it had happened so long ago now. The tears had kept coming, but I wouldn't allow myself to make any noises. I just sat there, quietly crying. After I had woken up from what I could only assume was an anxiety-induced passed-out state, I finally gave myself the okay to start moving again. Everything was incredibly quiet outside of the hidey hole. I moved slowly, stretching stiff muscles, pushing the roofing aside. I pushed it farther and peeked out, seeing the floor and other dirty broken objects sitting around. I had been so hyper-focused I had barely noticed the smell of wet mold, rot, something sour. Honestly, not ideal. Well, let's hope I didn't catch an undiscovered disease from being down there so long. I climbed out, inch by inch. With a struggle, I got myself on the surface. Then I took the gentlest of steps, each time heading towards where the window was I had came in through, moving like I was in a SWAT raid, with no weapon and zero training. Each corner was looked over. Too bad I didn't have a weapon to back it up. That would have helped my paranoia. My insides felt tight with worry as I brought myself closer and closer to what I perceived as freedom. I stopped at the room with the window entrance before going in, looking around each other corner of the door's frame. Seeing nothing, I crept in and felt the biggest of reliefs there wasn't anyone in there. The window came into view. Relief flooded me so hard my knees almost gave out. I walked over to the window, grabbed the frame, and lifted myself up, struggling again. I gripped the wall with my feet arched like I was walking down a steep mountain, and pushed my weight at the top of my arms upwards, wobbling on my sweaty hands. I pushed my leg up and felt it push me upwards with that momentum. I pushed my other leg up and suddenly I felt like a spider monkey. As I pushed my other leg out beside my wobbling, stressed out hands. Then came the easy part. I pushed my last leg out, then flattened it against the ground for a second like a deflated balloon and brought my head up to look around. I saw no one in sight, not morphing creatures or birds. I crawled all the way up into a sitting position. Then I dusted the dirt and rocks off of my palms and got up. I burst into a run heading towards the broken fence. After that, I ran to the nearest bus station. I felt my mind drifting. Had any of that been real, just now? Maybe all of this was just a deluded scene conjured up by a very tired mind. Maybe my brain finally snapped. Writing it down would help. That's what my therapist said. I hadn't been sleeping well for a few days now. Taking too many late nights at the antique store I worked at, and feeding those puppies at the pound, had made me a full-time energy house. Maybe if I wrote this all down, the crazy I was writing wouldn't make a lick of sense, and that would help kickstart my tired mind into reality. I'd feel better, and forget about the imagined creepy things I had seen. Maybe that man was coming after me because I dropped something, and not because of some weird, unsightly supernatural obstruction to reality. Though that wouldn't make up for the words he'd said to me in that abandoned building. He said he'd wipe my mind. Because we don't need humans telling stories about us. I felt the visible confusion on my face and in my solar plexus. I looked up as a woman walked past, bumping into me as the bus had in fact arrived and I was standing in the way of the door. Oops, that's my bad, really. I walked in, slotting my debit card into the pay stand at the front, and walked in after it spit out my day ticket. I showed the bus lady, who nodded at me uncaringly. I walked further in and paused, noticing something weird. 3 people's eyes weren't doing normal things. The woman that had knocked into me was staring up out the window as her eyes morphed into black pools of nothingness and then back into human-shaped pupils. The panic returned instantly. The guy reading a coupon beside her out loud. Holding it up as if checking if it were real cash, his eyes had morphed too. I stared in shock if my mouth weren't on the floor. I don't know where it was. Maybe I had lost it. The kid beside the man was drinking the sippy cup and looking around at everyone, but his eyes, too, morphed into black inky voids. I felt that ass-dropping panic again, and I swooshed to the side, almost falling face first into a holding pole beside me when the bus had started moving. Luckily, instead of eating pole, my neck hugged it, and the rest of me followed, holding the pole around me like a sloth. I didn't care how stupid or weird I probably looked, not right now, because there were 3 of those things in the bus with me. I heard the man reading out loud laugh, but there was something wrong with his voice for a split second. It sounded like he had 2 voices. I looked over at him, and he peered up at me after a bit. I looked away instantly and waited for my stop. I pulled the call button for requested stops at the top of the bus, and waited. I got off in front of my apartment, and felt the man's eyes on the back of my skull as I walked out. I ran into my apartment, heading into the comfort of my room where I promptly fell apart. Crying, screaming, thrashing, and throwing things. I wasn't sure why, but a part of my life for the last few hours had felt out of my control. And that pissed me off, but it also terrified me. I'm going crazy. My therapist said that writing down information always helps. So that's exactly what this is. I'm not sure if it worked. Let's hope I don't see any more of whatever those things are pretending to be human.